Our goal for this chapter was to import this audio, chop it up, rearrange it to our needs, and then export it. So we've done almost all of that. Let's do the export now. First, let me select one of the clips, doesn't matter which one, and show you that in the clip bin on this little triangle is export clips as files, Shift Command K. I selected a clip because if you don't select something, you won't be able to export it. I want to select them all, and then I can export them all, send them off to my client, and get paid, right? Wrong, because what I'll be sending is each individual little clip like this with these names. What my client wants is these 5 tickings, that wind up, and these 2 chimes all welded together in one audio file. I want to consolidate all these clips together. That doesn't happen in the clip area. That happens in the edit menu. What they call it is Consolidate Clip, and they give us this keystroke for it. What it's done now is to glue all those together into one piece. It's called it clockwork_01. We're going to fix that in a minute. But you can see, if you look very closely, that it did apply the volume moves. Remember, we chose each individual ticking here and adjusted its volume slightly. And there is a very slight volume escalation of those tickings. So it glued that in to the piece that it gave us. It didn't just glue them together. It actually applied the volume change. And it applied the little crossfade that we put in between the chimes. Now we have one piece of audio. Notice that it's a stereo with a left and a right, and it has that name, Clockwork01. I'm going to use the Smart tool and the grabber on the bottom part of the clip to call this 2 o'clock. Notice I'm leaving out the apostrophe because sometimes apostrophes will give you trouble when you're sending files across the internet. We'll just use the wrong punctuation here on purpose. Name clip only and name clip and disk file. You almost always want to name it here and on the disk, as opposed to naming it here and it'll be called something else in the actual file in the folder. Most of the time, you're going to want the files to be the same. So we'll say, okay, now it's called 2 o'clock, and now I can export that one as a file. Here are some choices that we're familiar with. We made them at the beginning of the chapter when we created our session. Assuming the client sent us a wave, that's probably what he wants back, although we do have the choice to create other types of files here. Multiple mono is what you would want if you were sending this to someone who's going to work in ProTools. As we've seen, when ProTools encounters a stereo file, it chops it into an L and an R. This would save them the trouble of doing that. It's also what you'll get if you choose Avid compatibility. If you have interleaved, it will switch you back to multiple mono. Let's take that off, and our choices for bit depth and sample rate, these are the standard audio CD settings, 4416. Notice that we have the sample rates we saw at the beginning, but we can downsample all the way down to 8 and upsample all the way to 192. We can create a file that we can't actually play back on our Mbox because we don't have this quality. And then down below this line are all the settings that we use for pull up and pull down in working with the various international film formats and television standards. And you can create a custom sample rate if these aren't enough choices for you. The worst you can make it is 8K sample rate. Chances are it's going to leave roughly how it arrived. By choosing a really high-end sample rate, you don't automatically put in quality that isn't there. The destination directory is the audio files folder of the session that you created. Although for a particular need, you might want to put it on some network attached storage or a flash drive. So you can override that. Let's go ahead and export it. Consolidate is really only something you can use when all of your clips are on the same track. When you want to create an audio file that has more than one thing happening at a time, you'll want to use the bounce command, and we'll cover that in a later movie.